Hello and welcome back to Blood and Ashes. This is episode 52. I am your host Mo, and I'm joined once again by my unassuming but powerful friends Willie
Very powerful indeed.
and Jody.
Oh, I'm flattered. Thank you.
Was my reference to today's material clear enough?
Yep.
Oh no, I didn't get it at all. I haven't slept very well last night. every joke you make, every reference, is just going to go way over my head today.
Okay, well, let's pretend like you're about to be tested by Mazrim Taim.
Staring into a flame, getting all sweaty.
Looking unassuming, but carrying within you the power to kill.
Yes. All right. But I've always had that, so nothing new.
True fact. So here we go, eh? Into the meat of Lord of Chaos. I mean, I know we started Lord of Chaos last week, but like that
it's already
prologue was kind of all over the place. Now we get 4 chapters of Rand.
Sweet.
I mean, yeah. 4 chapters with the Lord of Chaos himself.
Mm-hmm. Let's just let him rule, guys. You heard the Dark Lord.
Now, my copy of the book is the same one that I had in high school, and it's the one with Rand standing on. Oh yeah, is it in a field or on a pile of bodies, something along those lines?
Like, pile of bodies.
I might be confusing it with the cover of Doom, but it's him standing there in like a Mills and Boon cover, like lace white shirt, and what it always reminds me of is Doom as Wells, right? I mean, that's I think the scene, unless I've been mistaken for decades. And that is the only reason that I can associate Doom Eyes Wells with Lord of Chaos. And other than that, I got nothing. I cannot tell you what happens in this book.
Well, I could extrapolate because I too know this is the book with Doom Eyes Wells in it. And then I extrapolate like, all right, so there were Asha'man. So obviously, the previous book, there were no Asha'man. This must be where they found the farm and trained them and no. And but no, specific memories, as per usual, nothing.
Especially with Rand's proclamation of his amnesty at the end of the previous book, right? You're like, okay, cool. It's opening the door for the Asha'man. By the end of this book, the Asha'man need to kick serious ass already. So,
yeah. And I'm surprised as well. Like it didn't take that long. Because I mean, if Doom Eyes Wells is 50 chapters away, wow. Yeah. He did tell them, spoilers, that he did tell Taim to train them fast. So he followed orders in this case.
Oh, now look.
All right.
I always have my keen senses out for these things. The Aes Sedai could be pushing novices into accepted, into the hands on the oath rod if they'd stop fucking scrubbing pots and start fucking teaching their novices. Look at what the Asha'man did. No pot scrubbing. No. Who's there doing the laundry, looking after the place? The wives and the children are running around. And they're getting down to business of training for a purpose. Not, oh, you're a little bitch. I know what we do with little bitches. We make them scrub pots for 2 days, motherfucker. No. They're like,
personal vendetta.
Big fat wind slap around the face. Get back to work. Let's do this thing. Train to be an Asha'man. Anyway, rant over.
Thanks, Willie. We all knew it was coming.
Oh, we expect it. Okay. So I'm assuming that there's going to be some kind of like Saladar plotting. I mean, the sun rises, they plot in Saladar. Yeah. That has to happen in this book, right? They don't just drop Saladar for a book or anything like that. But do we know? I mean, we saw a glimpse of Perrin in the prologue, and Kerry was saying he does appear toward the end of the book. So we know Perrin is in here. Do we know what Matt's up to in this book?
Yeah, I've read ahead. I read one chapter ahead. He's in a tavern. He's doing that.
I was going to say Matt's in a tavern.
But I mean, did you guys not read these chapters? These Matt plans are very much in my 2 chapters, so I will get to them.
Okay, but Matt isn't physically there. They just discussed that Matt was in and amongst the plan making with Davram and Rand.
Yes. and Weramon and those other clowns.
Weramon's a clown. I don't want to talk about him.
What a tool.
Well, got bad news for you. It's coming.
It's going to be 2 hours of talking about him.
Okay. Since we can't jog our memories with the subject matter of Book 6, let's jog our memories of our previous episode in our favorite section called Callbacks. All right. We asked, I put my foot in and I said, isn't Amis related to Avienda? Well, she's not related to her by blood, but through marriage. So Leon, Ruroch's other wife, is Avienda's aunt.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a connection there.
Sure.
Willie, you mentioned that when metal gets heated beyond a certain point, it goes transparent.
Yeah.
Yes, you very cavalierly volunteered to go find the information and share it with me. So in the meantime, I went and I looked for it, and it does not seem to be 100% true. What you could be referring to is something called black body radiation, which is a phenomenon that people have expressed from something that you might know about, maybe where you heard this, is when a turbo on an engine gets really, really hot. People can actually see the turbine turning on the inside, but the black body radiation is actually the turbine on the inside being slightly cooler than the casing on the outside and cooling the outer casing and creating a quote-unquote shadow of where the turbine is when it's spinning. So people are not actually seeing the turbine. They're seeing this cold shadow of it along the casing of the turbine.
Yeah, I knew it was with the turbo something.
Anyway. It's something to do with cars. Yeah.
Yeah. It was a safe assumption on my part that that's where Willie heard about it. And that's pretty interesting, though. Like, it's called black body radiation.
Sure. This podcast is just like a well of knowledge on every topic.
Hey, encyclopedic.
Wow.
You should rebrand. This is not about fantasy and literature. It's life.
Science.
Everyone needs this podcast in their life. That's a stretch. Another thing that I'd never mentioned in the previous episode, but I really wanted to, is just that, so Swan and Leanne just know that Moghedian is sitting in the room with them.
They're just cool with it.
And don't seem to be fazed by it at all.
I think there's
they even put the bracelet on Swan.
Yeah.
To show this person that can channel, you should be able to censor, like.
I think there was a point that we weren't involved in because like we jumped. And like they're already there and they're going, like something in between happened there that we weren't privy to, where they came to terms with it. She had her freak out. What are you doing? Are you crazy? That's a Forsaken, blah, blah, blah. Calmed her down. He has the bracelet, put it on. Nothing. There you go.
Yeah.
I should write a novel.
I just thought that was a pretty big deal for them to like not comment on at all.
Yeah. I mean, that's weird because that would have been an interesting section to read. More interesting than most of that book. So anyway, weird choice, RJ, but okay.
Yeah. Still with Nynaeve and Swan, the deal that they made to let Nynaeve try and heal them was not after they had their scuffle in the street. It was directly after they met the Aes Sedai when they arrived in Saladar. When Nynaeve and Elaine were sort of questioned and they go outside, they see Leanne and Swan sort of exchange glances and Nynaeve immediately puzzles out, those two are actually in cahoots. They look like they're not getting along, but they're planning. And immediately after that, Nynaeve goes to Swan's room and they sit there and they make a deal. So that's a correction for us. Then we asked, have the White Cloaks ever killed an Aes Sedai? Because Morgase says like one of the consequences of letting the White Cloaks loose in Andor means they'll probably kill Aes Sedai. And I was like, have they ever done that? And the only record I could find is of an Amelin Seat called Serenia Latar, who was the Amelin Seat from 276 to 306 New Era. She died in Altara after negotiating the end of a civil war there. She's the only Amelin Seat the White Cloaks have ever hanged, but she was already dead when they hanged her. They hung her body.
That sounds like such a White Cloak move.
It's such a White Cloak thing to do.
Read it, guys.
We'll actually, I think we actually read about that specific scene in this book. There's a picture of her being raised on the scaffold that hangs in the Dome of Truth in the White Cloak stronghold. What's it called again? Fortress of Light.
Yeah.
And Eamon Valder is is sort of looking at it, and he muses to himself. Finally, he saw a tall graying man studying one of the paintings, Serenia Latar being raised on the scaffold, the only Amelin the children had ever managed to hang. She had been dead already, of course, live witches being somewhat hard to hang, but that was beside the point. 693 years ago, justice had been done according to the law.
Sure, bro, whatever. Cool story, bro.
Whatever you need to tell yourself. Now with Demondred on the scene and us knowing about his whole stint in Shara, I asked the question, so at the point where Demondred is busy talking to Masana and Semirog, has he already been to Shara or not? And yes, he has, but he does not have the Sakanan yet. The Sakanan is that, two-piece Sa'angreal that's more powerful than Kalandor.
Is it like a pool cue
So
that you can carry in a case and then just screw together?
Does it have a pool cue that you screw a cup onto? A pool cue with a cup holder. Shortly after his release, Demondred traveled to Shara, searching for the Sakanan, or it's actually just called Sakanan, like Kalandor, an incredibly powerful Sa'angreal. Taking the name Bao and posing as a slave, Demondred unwittingly began to fulfill the Sharan prophecies of the Wild, that's W-Y-L-D. He led a slave rebellion and was adopted by Mintel, an elderly Abrishi man. To sow chaos, he freed the male Ayad, who were the slaves, who took the name the Freed, and taught them how to channel. So Demondred is training a bunch of freed slaves how to channel in Shara. I mean, he's got this whole other thing happening there. It's after all of that happens that he goes to Shael Ghul, in that episode, or the meeting that we read about in the previous episode. And only later, after a meeting in Tel'aran'rhiod with other Forsaken, does he go back to Shara as Bao to walk the path of the River of Souls. And then the prophecies of the Wild stated that the Wild would walk the path into the Heart Tomb and retrieve this piece of Sakanan that was hidden there. And when Demondred entered the place called Railair, he battled one of the ancient guardians of the tomb, an adult Jumara, which is a worm. Remember what they were running away from, the blight. And a green man.
Huh. What? Another one?
Not the green man, but there's another one of those beings in that cave, trapped in there.
Huh. Nomeshta's buddy, his brother or something.
Yeah. Cool. And then after 3 days, he comes out and he's got this cup and he's their dragon reborn, quote unquote. He's their savior.
My finger is up. Yes. This sounds, like the Koramur and the Kara Khan and the Dragon Reborn are all the same dude, but this Wild doesn't seem like it would have been possible for Rand to fulfill those prophecies. So this might be like a prophecy of the dark, or is it just like some random wild card prophecy?
I think the dragon is actually mentioned in the prophecy of the Wild. And people speculate that what Demondred did by fulfilling the prophecy of the Wild is actually fulfilling the prophecy of the dragon. Like he needed this counterpart. That was all part of they're not in conflict, these two prophecies, but they're actually two halves of the same story, and that everything did play out the way that it was supposed to.
Of course it did. Foolish.
We're going to do a bonus episode on the River of Souls, I think. It's a super interesting story. And that story, the River of Souls, is, like you said, Joe, from the Volume 1 of the Unfettered Anthology. For our listeners that want to go look it up. And there, like you said as well, are already 3 of them. There are 3 of those anthologies. Then the Aes Sedai mentioned in the previous episode that they think a delegation of 9 Aes Sedai to meet with Rand is a crazy honor, and that most kings would be humbled by just 3. When I listened to the episode, I thought, wait, how many went to Faldara again with
3.
Swan?
All of them?
In book 2? 14.
That's too many, guys.
That's plenty. But I mean, maybe she caught wind of the fact that the Horn of Valir had been found. There was a massive attack at Tarwin's Gap, but I mean, that didn't seem that out of the ordinary. The Tarwin's Gap fight was just like Borderlanders doing Borderlander stuff, But yeah, 14 went there, so okay, 9, not the greatest honor this age yet.
Yeah.
Okay, so on to listener contributions. We had a new contributor called Joe. Good name, eh?
Yeah, best name ever.
They wrote in to rap me on the knuckles for being pretty hard on Nynaeve during our coverage of the last book. So I thought I'd take the opportunity just to let the listeners know that we do love Nynaeve, and it's our love for her that made reading those chapters so extra hard. And yes, she's learning, and to her credit, she does learn and change during those chapters, and no change comes without struggle. So I just wrote here, hang in there, Joe, the listener. We'll be gushing about her soon enough. I mean, even her capture of Mogedion and Tel'aran'rhiod in the previous book is fucking awesome, right? Like, she is already leaving that stuff behind her and leaning more into the badassery that we remember.
Yeah, this is a problem when you already know the end of the story. So like we know where she's going, and it's just so tedious to watch her getting there. Like just get there already. Yeah. And that's where the frustration
to like
comes.
Cleansing the source and like healing madness and gentling and stilling. Like do all the yeah exactly. All right, so then once again the delivery man checking in for duty. Richard writes in with a correction in that the wolves don't caution Perrin against being in the wolf dream in the flesh. They caution him on being there too strongly, and that he has no experience and therefore he's vulnerable. Right? It wasn't the being there physically thing, because Perrin doesn't go there physically at first. Only way later in the story that he does the thing that Slayer does and he shifts in there. But even here where they warn him, it's just because he's there.
All right.
Then I went and I dug around for that quote about like Robert Jordan saying it's just superstition, the wise one saying that being there in the flesh is dangerous. And I found it on Theoryland. I found a reference to a sci-fi.com transcript from a conversation where Robert Jordan addressed the question in 1998 after the releasing of Path of the Daggers. He said, or someone said to him, I'm curious to find out why there are no male dreamwalkers mentioned, since according to the wise ones, it is not connected to the power. And here Robert Jordan just says, simply because it's a talent that appears very rarely among men. Okay, not quite related. The wise ones are doubtful that there actually can be a male dreamwalker. One of the themes of the book is that no one knows everything there is to know. Another is just because you believe something to be true doesn't mean that it is true. So there's a nice big loophole there for anyone that says anything could be wrong about it. So take everything with a grain of salt. And then even Harriet chimes in and she says one of Robert Jordan's great themes was the unreliability of information, that we all think we know things that sometimes are absolutely cuckoo.
So, true that.
Thanks, team RJ and Harriet. Richard goes on and he says it's possible that the cold temperatures of Thakandar and the hot stone of Shal Ghul represent the two different thoughts on hell being either hot or cold in Christian thought. Ian Yellen adds his voice to Richard to remind us of the portal stone worlds, because remember we spoke about like the dark one. He asked about how fares this world, specifically making reference to it. It's canonical that there is a multiverse in the story, and it is mentioned in the story that there is only one creator and one dark one, and that the dark one freed or trapped in one world means the same for all worlds. So I remember that, and I know that there's a multiverse and that the dark one could be referencing multiple other worlds. But if he's asking how things go in this world, what really sort of struck home for me is that if there are other worlds in which he does succeed, then does it make what Rand is doing in this world moot?
Yeah, that's a good question. Not yes, that is the answer. Yes, I agree with your question.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't. That sentence you just threw me off completely there when you said like,
but
if he's free in one world, he's free in all.
The whole idea of a multiverse, because the multiverse idea is that there's infinite amount of outcomes and infinite amount of possibilities.
But it is also mentioned that the creator and the dark one sit outside of the multiverse. There's only one of them.
They're outside of space and time. If he's
freed in one, he's freed in all. And if he's trapped in one, he's trapped in all. So I almost imagine it like this sphere of multiple universes and the dark one floating around the edge, checking in, like, how are you doing over here? How are you doing over here?
Just like trying to get in.
For me to come out yet? Yes. And once he gets in the sphere, he gets into everything.
Huh.
I don't know. That's my childish way of trying to describe this totally abstract concept. Richard always thought that the forgers at Shal Ghul were using the souls of the people to temper the swords. In The Dragon Reborn, Perrin thinks about how a blacksmith uses water for this temper, salt water for that, and oil for another, that sort of thing, which is a cool sort of phrasing, tempering the blade in a soul. But then my comment to that is physics? Shrug. Okay, how? But anyway.
Just stab him in the chest. Stab him in the heart.
I told you, they temper the blade with the people physically. They put the blade, and then they put the person on the anvil, and then they smack the person into the blade. And it cools it down just at the right temperature with the right mix of fluids. And
Fluid.
that's why those blades are so black. It's because of the way that, like, just bits of
Someone's
clothing.
been
explained
hammered into
that
it.
they're made black from the water on the slopes, from the inky water that's running down the slopes of Shah Gould, because they go in pale as like what moonlit snow, and then they come out blacker than black. Anyway, it was just a fun thought.
Yeah.
As for Gawain believing the peddler about Morghese, Richard reminds us that Morghese would have instructed her children in politics in the game of houses because, Tom helped Morghese to learn both of those. And Tom had taught Morghese that rumors are the voice of the people. And apparently that's from, Richard says Dragon Reborn, chapter 47. I didn't go read it. I'm taking his word for it.
Okay.
But thanks, Richard, for that encyclopedic knowledge. So Morghese teaching her children that is not that unbelievable and gives a sort of in-world reason why Gawain would believe Old Mill. Still, that's throwing him a real bone. Richard does say, that being said, all three of Morghese's children suck because they all have duties, like things that they're supposed to do, but they all go running off and doing something else instead, and they sort of grumble about what their duties are, but they don't go and actually do them. I think Elaine's got a bit of an out because, like we heard in the previous episode, they're not going to let her do anything. They've got her now. The Aes Sedai are not letting her go. John O'Pierce also wrote in to back up our boy Gawain, saying that he's just bad at making judgment calls because he's never had to until recently. He's always had his path laid out for him quite clearly, and now he's learning in real time how to make decisions, and he's bad at it.
I'll buy that. That's the best explanation yet.
Yeah. Richard again says that with Perrin and Fael, we spoke about this sort of like aggression. Is Fael just imagining this? And there's more cultural lore to explore here because the aggression is actually something that Fael expects and somewhat desires. She's subconsciously and consciously pushing Perrin towards this. In Saldaean culture, a husband yelling and even using some physical intimidation is seen as the husband believing his wife is a strong enough woman who can withstand adversity, which is a real fucked up roundabout way of being okay with being aggressive with your wife, but okay, Saldaeans. So Fael locking herself in the room was likely wishful thinking on her part. That's where we landed as well.
Yeah.
Apparently, Davram's wife, Dira, says the following quote, also in this book, Lord of Chaos, chapter 46. I'll never forget the first time Davram took me by the scruff of the neck and showed me he was the stronger of us. It was magnificent.
Jeez.
Okay.
Okay, people. Hey, man.
And then later when Perrin is yelling at Berelain but walking on eggshells around Fael, apparently he senses that Fael smells hurt, but he doesn't understand why. It's because he's being aggressive to Berelain and not to her. Apparently Elias finally sets him straight about this, but that's all really... If you look at it with a modern lens from where we sit, that is so fucked up. That is really, really unhealthy. But okay, fantasy time. People are murdering, doing magic. If that's what you want, Fael, I'll suspend my disbelief. Then, Willie, you were saying that Tam is an old man, and therefore Aram is likely to get the better of him while they're practicing. But Richard says Lan actually compliments Tam on his swordsmanship, and I think it's during the last battle, when Lan says to him, I had long wondered about the man who had given Rand that heron-marked blade. I had wondered if he had truly earned it. Now I know. And it's after Tam leads... It's after Tam leads a charge like into a bunch of Trollocs to sort of buy some time. And afterwards, Lan actually gives him a compliment. And I mean, how many compliments does Lan give people on swordplay?
That's the second one.
All things. Yes. Also, apparently, Tam learned how to use a sword with one hand in case he needed to fight with only one hand, like if he injured an arm or lost a hand or something, which is ironic because, Rand does. But Tam is actually good with a sword and not only with two hands, but with one.
Legend.
Ian, this is the comment that I missed from Ian earlier. He also mentioned Dante's Inferno, that the bottom of hell is an ice lake. A Christian connection that Richard also made to the hot and cold of Thakondar and the pit of doom.
Mm-hmm.
All right, that's the end of the delivery, man. Only a couple more to go. Hang in there.
Yo, people.
Kerry sent me a voice note reminding me that her original question regarding the Wise One's intention for Avienda and Rand was a little more nuanced than what was addressed in our previous callback section. So immediately after Rand hears the conversation between the Wise Ones and Avienda on that topic, he thinks to himself that Avienda would never accept an instruction like that, since it would mean she's no better than the girls being sent by Colavia. And my response to that is the following. The Wise Ones have not instructed Avienda to seduce Rand, right? They are hoping something will happen, because they have instructed her to stick to Rand like glue, to teach him the Aiel ways, and to sleep in his room. So Rand is right. Avienda would not and has not accepted such an instruction to seduce him or to bed him or to marry him or anything like that. She's actively resisting that whole romance because of Elaine, while still having to obey the orders of the Wise Ones, which she does. Therefore, she is not like Colavia's hussies. Would you agree?
Sure.
Okay.
All right. Well, that's it. That's the end of callbacks.
Oh.
So let's forge ahead. Previously on Blood and Ashes, a lot happened. A lot of people did a lot of things. So here we go. With I'm gonna do all these previously ons like as quickly as possible from now on, just because it's kind of fun. Right. Demandred meets Shada Haran at Sha'al Ghul and gets new orders from the Dark One himself. Nynaeve is struggling to break her block or to make much headway with healing Swan, Leanne, or Loghain. Elaine and Nynaeve have been squeezing some knowledge from a captive Margidian. Min is about to accompany an embassy of 9 Aes Sedai who will go meet with Rand on behalf of the rebels. Fahil is running Eamon's Field like a well-oiled machine, while Perrin avoids his lordly duties, but he does tell Fahil he must go to Rand. She starts plotting how to accompany him. Gawain hears that his mother and maybe even his sister are dead thanks to the Dragon Reborn. Savannah and the Shido make a deal with the Tower Aes Sedai led by none other than Kalina Casban. Morghese tries in vain to get help from the King of Amadicia when Pedro Niall shows up unexpectedly and offers to help her if she lets the White Cloaks operate freely in Andor. In the meantime, Niall plots how to use the rampaging Dragonsworn to his advantage. Missana, Semirog, Grandal, and Demandred make plans. Missana apparently has one in motion already, and Agenor and Balthamel are resurrected as Osangar and Arangar, or rather Deshiva and Halima, as we'll come to know them, and they're also taking orders from Shadar Haran. And that brings us to Chapter 1 of Lord of Chaos, called The Lion on the Hill. Set us on our path, Willie.
All right. Rand. Okay, first, there's wind and trees and long, fruitful, colorful bits that every book starts in. And then we get to fruitful, colorful descriptions of Rand practicing the sword against 5 blokes. He's now renting swordsmen to hone his skills on. And these are the 5 best that he's been able to pick up. And he makes quick work of 4 of them. But the 5th, none of these guys have got names, by the way. They've got ugly face and broken nose and scar face and beardy McBeard face or boaty McBoat face or whatever. The 5th man, as he slices him through the middle with the practice sword, he also cops a whack on the head with the 5th man's practice sword. And the deal is, if you can land a blow on the Lord Dragon, you get paid handsomely. But Rand instructs to pay them all handsomely and with a bark that tomorrow, same place, same time, don't be late, type of thing. His onlookers, this is now much like the Tower training grounds, is all of Gabriel's ex-cronies that very much kiss ass all day, every day, lavishly. And they go through one to the other lord and lady and likening Rand to the greatest swordsman that ever lived and blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. Turn over 4 pages, it's still going on. And then Davram Bashir is sitting there with his leg over the, like the what do you call it? The armrest. Armrest. And he's like, oh, really? Is this how you think it is? And very asking, like, why do you think that is? And gets up and throws a little attitude and very quickly whips out a dagger and goes for Rand. And everyone is like, oh. Swords pull out and lords pull out swords. Not the dragon. And Everyone loses their shit, and maidens jump, and everyone's like cats on hot tin roofs. And Rand very calmly embraces the source and grabs the dagger with air and gets angry, really angry. And Davram here is pretty much just, without paraphrasing the whole thing, trying to show him that you're wasting your time, your energy, and you're risking splitting your skull because you are never going to fight 5 swordsmen at once, ever. If you're going to be in danger, you're going to use the power. And if there are 5 swordsmen waiting for you, my 9,000 horsemen, or your 15,000 maidens of the spears, however many they are, they're going to deal with the swordsmen. And you're going to deal with the big things that you need to do with the power. So you effectively wasting your time and energy, which is interesting. It is true.
It's a fair point. Yeah.
It is a fair point. Maybe it's his. I'm just going to go. It's like it's his getaway. It's Rand's getaway from all of the insanity, where he can actually just meditate through.
Because he's in the void, so there's all emotion is away, and he has a couple of these moments as well in my chapters and in previous ones where he meets with the clan chiefs. They always talk about brandy and women and all kinds of stuff, and that's another one of his little getaways that I thought about, and this is one as well. The guy needs some R&R.
He does.
Absolutely. Now, through this chapter, and more so through the next chapter, and throughout all of these chapters that we're covering, we're going to, and again, I'm going to take this on because Mo, you dropped a sort of hint that Rand is made an alter personality to the memories of Lewis Theron.
I have thoughts on that too, Willie.
There's a lot of things that Lewis Theron would not have any memory of, and especially with Mazrim Taim coming into the picture. So it's interesting, but Rand is having a constant fight with the madman in his head. So and more pointedly, it's really becoming real now, to the point of who's starting to channel, who's starting to do things. Is it me or is this madman in my head? Either which way, schizophrenic, it's always you. You just don't know which one of you it is. So anyway, as this whole scene and very colorful, descriptive, long, many pages is essentially a sword practice fight, Davram Bashir giving Rand a tongue lashing and a lesson, and then an introduction that, hey, there's a knock at the door, there's someone at the gate. Someone has arrived. Mazrim Taim has arrived. We can delve into the happenings of this chapter.
Yeah.
That is pretty much what happens.
Exactly that. There's a lot going on about the lords and the ladies and their names and shit.
The sycophants.
I don't care.
Just can't. The shitty comments. Yeah. Just die or be banished already.
Yeah. It's super hot. That's as well. It's unseasonably warm.
I have a bunch of notes.
Of course you do. There's half of them pedantic points.
No. They're just like cool, fun little things. I always forget that the inner city of Camelin is Ogier built, which is cool. It must mean that it is, every inhabitant of every city and country says that their capital is the most beautiful in the world or the second most beautiful. Everyone concedes that Tarvalon is the most beautiful. But I think it is implied here that this could actually objectively be the second most beautiful because it is Ogier built.
Yeah, I think everybody just says that Tarvalon is the most beautiful because they're afraid of the Aes Sedai. But everyone truly believes it's Andor.
Something else I noticed when reading this chapter again, because obviously at the start of the book, Robert Jordan reintroduces some known themes and he just retreads a lot of stuff that we know already, which is probably another reason why you're skipping over a lot of it, Phil. But I just want to say, it was triggered again for me in this chapter. Something I've felt this entire reread since we started this podcast is just really appreciating the duality of the Dragon Reborn, right? About how he's supposed to save the world, but he's also quite likely to destroy it. Like when you're a teenager reading these books, you're like, of course the good guys are going to win. But as an older, more jaded, maybe cynical adult, I'm like, even though I know the end of the story, I can see how people can feel like, fuck, maybe he just does destroy us all and we all lose. Maybe he goes mad and destroys everything around him. And for the Aiel, even the best possible outcome is devastating, right?
Yeah.
It's like a sliver of a sliver is going to survive. So I'm less annoyed or put out by people's reactions to hearing about a man that can channel around them on this reread than what I was like previous when I was younger. I was like, oh man, it'll be fine. Don't worry, Rand. He's going to save everything. He's the good guy. He's the hero.
That's something that I noticed as well, Moritz, is the effort that Robert Jordan puts into explaining how people react to men who can channel. Like it's still book 6 and there's still dudes like retching behind pillars just at the name, hearing Taim's name. Like physical reactions.
Taim especially here as well, right? Like because he's already like caused massive upheaval and proclaimed himself as a dragon and that sort of thing. And then
it would have been like pretty cool for the book series to end with Rand defeating the Dark One and blowing up the whole world again, and it's like start at square one, peasants digging in the dirt.
Do you know that doesn't happen? Dangle a bit of bait out there for the man that's yet to read A Memory of Light. I can't wait to cover that book with you, Vil.
I know.
It's going to be fun.
That's part of the sort of the nice thing for me is that that's going to be like the end, and I'm going to be new to it, and I can lose my shit live.
You all you have to wait is just a few short 3 or 4 years until we get there.
Yes. I like seeing how Rand is incorporating the Aiel fighting in his sword fighting. Like he's using kicks and stuff. He kicks a guy, and at the same time as the guy doubling over from the kick, he hits him in the head or something. Like he's becoming not just a sword fighter, but like a well-rounded fighter, which is cool. Rand's also really trying not to make friends, right? Like he needs opponents against which to practice. So, Willie, you mentioned here the guys don't have names. It's because Rand doesn't want to know their names. He's not trying to make friends. He needs opponents. And he says even the friends he already has will curse the hour they met him eventually. You know, like, fuck, okay.
Matt does that every hour. So it's already begun.
All the time.
Just touching on that fight again. Sorry, man. It's he got beaten. Look, physically and in the fight, and immediately honored the payment commitment that he made to these people. And then these punk ass nobles, but they could have been conspiring, that was their plan, and he's like, I just cannot read about these people. I just
he's got a pretty good response to them on that. It's like, would my enemies not conspire? Shut up, idiots. I learned 2 new words. Vulpine.
I looked that one up too.
Fox-like.
So did I.
And termagant.
That's both in one sentence.
A harsh-tempered or overbearing woman.
Yes. Those are Moritz, dude. We're on the same path. Those 2 words are in the exact same sentence. I even stopped and read it out loud to Christine. I was like, what the fuck does this sentence mean?
The overmind, alive and kicking. I made a note here that I was right. Bashir is the one that sits with his leg over the armrest of the chair. Love that guy. So, Vinny, I think you are under the same impression that I was when I read this chapter the first time. And that I thought that Bashir attacked Rand with a knife, but I think he throws it at him.
Say what now?
That is the face of acknowledgement.
Is like this? It's not very clear.
It isn't.
It isn't. And in me trying to figure out, I went looking. Okay, did he go and try and throw? And it's even on the internet. There's various opinions that it.
Oh, really?
Right, yeah, it's down to. I went and said, okay, cool, let's go look at book summaries. And some say he threw the knife, and others say he attacked him with the knife.
Yeah.
I went back Because I thought he attacked him first.
He uncoils, he stands up quickly and lunges with the knife. And then after Rand's got the knife in air, he sits down. So then I thought, wait, wasn't he holding the knife? Like,
yes.
Why stand up? Why not just
Yes.
throw it? Or maybe he had to stand up to get momentum to throw it. I don't know. But
maybe he did like a ninja, like jump and do a spin and then kick the knife out.
But what he does do is he actually masks the drawing of the knife by shifting his body. Like, he is not making it obvious. He is actually doing his best to try and kill Rand with a knife. Not because he wants to kill him, but because he wants to prove the point to Rand. And he is that confident in Rand's abilities. And in my mind now, like, I read it, and the first time I read it, it's like, wait, this doesn't quite, I can't form the picture in my mind clearly. And I was like, oh, wait, did he throw it? And then I read it again as if he threw it. And I was like, oh, okay, cool, that fits. So I'm imagining he like sort of hides his movement and then like subtly pulls the dagger out and like jumps up from how he was turning his body, like uncoils and throws the knife at Rand, and Rand just catches it in midair. Rand is already thinking about how it's becoming harder to stop Blues Theron from taking over. And the difficulty seems to increase with the more he uses the one power, which is, not news, but it's, they're reminding us here, like, a lot of focus on channeling, madness. We're going to be meeting Asha'man soon, Mazrim Taim, like, okay, big focus on male channelers in this book, obviously. There was another mention of the nameless young Aes Sedai that Ravin was feeding misinformation to for the tower. Again, with no name, and you never read about her again, I don't think. So, like, she's mentioned multiple times and never named, which is so odd for RJ, who will name a fucking servant.
Yeah, and give a little backstory about his kids. But this woman, mystery.
Totally. Then there's another rumor that there was another Aes Sedai in the city. Do we know who that might be? Another Aes Sedai in Camelot?
My money's on Varen.
I mean, that's what I thought as well, but I said pin it, right? Like, if we read about an Aes Sedai in Camelot, connect the dots. This is what they were talking about. This is where the rumor was.
Ooh, is it not Cadsuane, maybe? When does she come into the picture? Yeah, because we all think it's not
Irene, but it's when the whole group of them rock up together.
Okay, my money's, I got 50-50. Yeah. Varen or Cadsuane?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I mean, those are both good guesses. I'm leaning Varen myself, Joe.
All right.
Bashir seems completely unfazed about the Forsaken. Cool as a cucumber. Just reinforcing my favorite moment from last when we read about him the first time, right? Like, he is just so chill, which is great. Matt is already providing more ideas for Rand's plan of attack than even Bashir. Like, they talk here about like the plans, and Bashir and the Aiel clan chiefs and Matt have been giving, additional, like, Rand came up with a plan and they've supplemented it, but more so Matt than anyone else, which is amazing. Love every mention of that. We know that they mention here that Bashir has already been with Rand here in Camelot for a couple of weeks at this stage. Like, they've been here for a while, so they've gotten quite comfortable with each other. And then my last note was just how cruel the irony is of Rand trusting no Aes Sedai except for one, and that only shortly before her death.
Rand, cruel irony.
Also, look, it's her own fault. She did not come across as a trustworthy person.
She did not. She could have done more to earn his trust. A lot more. Yes. In fact, it seems at times like she was actively trying to push him away and make him distrustful of her. And I guess her Daistar Mar and Aes Sedai ways couldn't be.
Yeah, what a combo.
There's not a lot to delve into in this chapter, so we might as well delve into that. She is Corinian from a nobility and an Aes Sedai of the Blue Aja, which is all about spying and has this massive secret that she's been hiding from every single other sister except for one or two others. So,
for 20 years.
And she's tiny, so she's got this like Napoleon complex.
Yeah. And she's the size of a midget. So one can accept that she's not the person to let someone in quite quickly.
No, absolutely not. But yes, you're right, Willie. I mean, we've squeezed blood from a stone here. We can now quite happily move along to chapter 2, called A New Arrival. Take it away, Joe.
Mazrim Taim, bitches. Mazrim's in the house. It's about time.
We're going to call him MZ.
We call it empty.
No, MZ.
Mzi. He's South African. No, we're just going to call him Mazrim. Or Taim if you want. Or Tame. Whatever blows your balls back. So, Bashir is none too pleased to hear that old Mazrim Taim has arrived. The whole reason he and his army of 9,000 horse are even in Andor in the first place is because of this guy. And here he is, like, been announced. He's coming. He is at the door, as Willie would say. So the Andorran nobles, like I said previously, are freaking out by just the mention of his name. Like the ladies are fainting, the lords are vomiting behind pillars. Nobody's stoked except the maidens. They don't give a fuck. They don't flinch at all. Bashir asks Rand in a pretty pertinent question. What?
Don't get their fainting and their vomiting. They're standing there kissing ass to the dragon reborn that can channel. It's a man that can channel. Now another man that can channel knocks on the door, and all of a sudden they're fucking fainting and vomiting.
Well, look.
The thing is, Vil, this is the Dragon Reborn meeting a false dragon. Who knows are they going to attack each other? They don't know that time is here peacefully. Like, they don't know what's going to happen yet. Suddenly they're around two people that can channel that are potentially at odds.
Well, amnesty, they do know. That they know this amnesty's there.
Yeah, but still, this guy has a reputation. But they don't know. He hasn't even come inside yet.
I'll allow it.
Okay, thanks. So Bashir asks Rand that pertinent question, Willie, like, what if Time hasn't come here for the amnesty? What if he still thinks that he's the Dragon Reborn and he's come here to challenge Rand? But Rand coolly replies, if he thinks that, I will disabuse him. Ooh, okay. So, but...
I love that line.
Yeah, like... I don't think it's going to be an issue, guys. Don't worry. But reminds Bashir that if he is there for the amnesty, he gets it. Same as any other man that can channel. Like, I know you two have history, but please don't kill him the second he walks in the room. Rand can't afford, of course, to turn any man who can channel, unless it's a Forsaken, especially one as experienced as Taim. He's gonna need him. So Bashir agrees that if Taim sets foot. He agrees, but if Time sets foot in Saldea again, he's a dead man, amnesty or not. And Rand's like, all right, cool. I'll keep him out of Saldea. Like, agreed. Rand tells one of the Saldean guards there, Tumad, to bring Taim in. And of course, he first looks to Bashir to give him the okay. But anyway, it's almost the same time, but it's okay. So off he goes to go and fetch old Taim. They have to wait quite a while because the front gates are a long way away from where they are. So everyone's just standing around waiting. It's like a super awkward silence with the nobles and Bashir and Rand just standing around. No one's talking. The Andorran nobles are shifting all uneasily and like scraping their feet on the ground, coughing and whatnot. And Rand just tells them, listen, just go. But they're like, oh, no. Like all this feigned fuss about not leaving it there. You know, I am not afraid and I'll stand by you. And eventually he just tells them to fuck off in no uncertain terms. And they scurry off with no more. That's what they wanted to do anyway, and he knows it, so just go. Bashir is standing there, cool as a cucumber, Moritz, but looks as though he's ready. In the book's lines are ready to kill something. Taim, whatever. Finally, Taim arrives, and he's an older man, still younger than us. You know, the three on this podcast, around 35 to 37, apparently. Tall, dark hair, clean shaven, but clearly Saldean with the tilted eyes and the hawk nose and all of that stuff. Rand opens his mouth to speak, but this is when Luz just goes bananas in his brain and starts screaming about Demandred and Samael and how he should have killed them and scorched the earth. And Rand is like frozen with his mouth open. And Bashir just takes this opportunity to talk first. He's like, all right, if you're not going to say anything, I'll say it, because he's like, so you claim to be Taim, because the last time he saw him, he had a beard, I imagine, because Taim says, yes, Bashir, I've shaved, so maybe you don't recognize me without the beard. So he has to try and prove who he is, basically. Like, say, like, who are you, who you say you are? But he can't do it with channeling. He kind of like flickers his eyes towards Rand, like, I'm not going to just embrace the source now. This is not the time or the place. So he has to like say some things that only he would know and Bashir would know. How they met in battle and how he had him almost beat before the visions in the sky and all that stuff. But there was also one specific moment where some of Bashir's people came under a flag of parley, but then tried to assassinate him. And then he says to him, like, well, I hope you found them places as servants because now they just live to serve and obey. Did he compulsion those guys? What did he do to them?
People speculate about that online.
Yeah. Because now, like, their minds are broken, apparently. It doesn't sound like they can be fixed.
It implies
like,
that.
Yeah, like, it's done, dude. All right. I wanted to ask that. Also, note here that Taim is not sweating. Like, he knows that mind trick. Mm-hmm. Lots and lots of little clues here, either to make you believe something false, that he is that he is Demandred in disguise, or maybe he is, and then Robert Jordan changed his mind later on. There's also speculation online about that. But, I mean, so many things are pointing to it. Like, he knows compulsion. He knows that trick that's not associated with the power. We'll get more as we go along.
Well, I mean, the Aes Sedai know that trick. So that doesn't mean that he's Demandred, right? Like, people know that trick. People that can or can't channel.
Asmodeum knew it as well. But yeah, like, it's not just because he can channel that he knows that trick. That's another knowledge. Where did he get that knowledge from? Is my question.
People in this age know it. Maybe he was taught it. I mean, there's ways around it. Maybe he was taught it by a Forsaken. Because, I mean, let's be honest, he's a Dark Friend. We know that, even though he isn't Forsaken.
Yeah.
Even if he's not Demandred. And also, we don't know that he's used compulsion. It's implied, but it's not stated.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is there's a lot of
people down in other ways.
Breadcrumbs here that point to...
or you filling the gaps.
Yeah. Of course I am. That's what you do with breadcrumbs. They're there to fill gaps.
No, they could be red herons.
Red herons. They could be.
They could be.
All right. So anyway, Bashir almost loses it when he learns, when Taim starts talking about these people and how he compelled them or whatever. And he's about to draw his sword and just run him through right there and then. But so Rand has to snap out of his little mad session and step in between the two of them before Bashir actually does kill him. And he has to grab Bashir's arm and hold the sword inside the scabbard. And the men that brought Taim in are like pushing swords to him and spears into his ribs. But Rand and him start having a conversation as if none of those people are there at all. Taim tells Rand that he's actually there to see if Rand is really the Dragon Reborn, the man he saw in that sky vision. Rand's like, yep, that was me. Killed that dude in the sky vision. He was a Forsaken. Ishamael, I think. I figured. I've killed some other Forsaken too. And Taim's like, yeah, I heard you've killed a lot of Forsaken. Do you mean to kill all of them? And Rand's like, yeah, I mean, what else are we going to do with them? Either we kill them or they kill us. It's pretty simple. It's like, we're not going to be able to bring them back to the light or anything. So, yeah, this entire time, Rand is still holding Bashir's arm during this conversation, and the men are still poking Taim in the ribs with swords and spears. But Rand and Taim are just having a Sunday afternoon chat. Rand goes on with a list of crimes here of the Forsaken, trying to prove that whatever Taim has done, like, it pales in comparison. The amnesty is real. You'll get it. Like, you don't have to worry about it. If you want to read all those things, there's a list of horrific crimes in the book. Taim is going to submit to Rand, and he's going to work his ass off to earn that amnesty on their march to Tamrin Gaidon. Finally, Rand feels Bashir's arm relax. And he's so like, all right, he lets go. And he's like, all right, everybody calm the fuck down. And everybody like chills out a bit. But Taim's like, wait, what? Did you say submit? I was thinking more of a partnership, And Rand and myself are like, what the fuck, mate? This pisses Rand off a bit. He's not stoked.
On this guy.
The balls on this guy. It's like all this talk about the Forsaken, giving you all this spiel, like, like physically preventing Bashir from stabbing you to death, trying to prove that you're not such a bad guy in comparison to others. And then you come with me with this partnership crap. both Luz and Rand like lose it now. Luz is all in his brain, screaming, kill him. And Rand yells at him, I am the Dragon Reborn, not you. You will, I will tell you what to do and how to do it, when to do it, and all of that stuff. The end. So Taim at this point just immediately goes down onto one knee and submits. And Rand's like, whoa, that happened pretty quickly. Like, why did you just, why all the pretense and then go down to one knee immediately? And he's like, dude, like what choice do I have? Either Bashir is going to kill me, or I'm going to run around the countryside being chased the rest of my life. The Aes Sedai will find me eventually. They'll gentle me. At least if I hang around with you, with the Dragon Reborn, I might get myself a piece of that glory pie when that last battle business is done. So he also really did think that he was the Dragon Reborn, apparently, according to him. It's like, I can channel. I'm a man who can channel. I'm strong in the one power. People flock to me, like, who's to say I wasn't the Dragon Reborn? So Rand tells him to like, listen, bro, forget about your glory and the honor that you're going to get by staying by my side. You just focus on the last battle and do what I tell you to do. The end. So then they get down to the nitty gritty of it. Like, what are you here for? What do you know of male channeling that you can teach me? Can you test men to see if they can channel? Can you teach them afterwards? And this is the first time that Taim realizes that, hey, shit, there are actually men to teach, that others have come for the amnesty. These fools, he's very dismissive of these other men. He thinks that they're shit and they're farmers. Later on at the farm, we get the whole thing as well. But he's surprised that men actually showed up, these crazy bastards. It's like, dude, you showed up. But he affirms like, yeah, okay, cool. I can do both. I can figure it out. I can teach them, test them, the whole works. And then Rand's like, also, like, how are you not as crazy as a bag of cats? You've most people like last a year or two before they go crazy. You must have been doing it for 10, 15 years at least. But the Taim's like, I don't know. I'm just not crazy. I'm thinking, or maybe he's just a different kind of crazy, not that outwardly kind. Taim admits that he knew Rand wouldn't trust him, obviously, so he brought a gift. One of the seals on the Dark One's prison, intact. Rand is stoked. This is a good gift.
Rand is stoked. Not other Rand.
But Rand's also like, oh, what are these? Do you have more? Where did you get it? Do you have more? Like, what has this guy got a collection of Dark One seals? There's rare as hen's teeth, bro. Like, you're asking a bit too much. But as soon as he's got it in his hands, again, Luz just starts losing his shit inside his brain, and he starts screaming, break it, strike now, break it. And this is what I think Willie was referring to, because this is not a memory, or maybe it is.
One of the things,
because this is actually true. This is what needs to be done anyway in the last battle.
If it was a memory of Luz, and while we at it, because I've got it in front of me open, like, break it, break all of them. Up like thunder, break it, all of them, must break them, must break them, all break them, strike, must break, quickly, strike, now, break. Like a madman.
Yes.
Those seals were made by them when they imprisoned him. There's no way at that point in date and time that there was any thought of breaking it. The idea of breaking Quendiar is just... like, no, he can't break Quendiar.
Yeah, but my argument is actually the opposite of that. There's no way that Rand knows at this point in the story that he needs to break the seals. Like, that's not the tactic yet. He doesn't know that. So it's not his memories influencing a madman talking in his head. This is actually Luz. Luz knows that they need to be broken. And Rand is hearing him. Yeah. Moritz and I are never going to quite see eye to eye on this Luz in the head story.
I mean, it was Ian Yellen that wrote in and said that was the case, right? I've never corroborated the story that these are only memories and that Rand conjured a personality to take up those memories. I will say, however, just to play devil's advocate, just so that we can't put this to bed, Lews Theron did not... He was there when the seals were placed, and he was there when everything went wrong, when the Dark One lashed out and they went mad. So he would have memories of this being only a partial success and in some ways a failure. So he would have a memory of thinking, fuck, this wasn't actually the right thing to do. Like what the woman had said back in the Age of Legends.
Yeah.
And then if if Rand has conjured a new personality, like if you've got multiple personality disorder, that personality will be able to have thoughts and react to things in real time, because that is now an entity that lives in your head.
Mm. But where's
So
it getting its
it's
thoughts
not just
from? It's getting it from you, from your mind.
from Rand.
But
Yeah,
how does
your
Rand know to
mind-
break the seals at this point?
Rand doesn't know for a fact to break the seal. And again, we're speaking in hypotheticals here, right? I'm not making an argument that this is definitely the case. But
Yeah.
say Lews Theron seals the Dark One away. The Dark One lashes out. Saidin is tainted. Men start going mad around him. And Lews Theron goes, fuck, I shouldn't have done this. How am I going to undo this? Maybe I should break the seals. Maybe this was the wrong approach. This was never something that was going to work. Lews Theron would remember. There would be a memory in Rand's head of, oh shit, this was a mistake. I should break them. ... Could be.
That is not that is a very lawyered approach.
My mom always told me I should have been a lawyer.
It's difficult to
I'm not
argue
saying that's
against
the
that.
case. I'm saying there is still wiggle room there.
There is wiggle room. Okay. Firstly,
wiggle room.
What was known at the time? So let's take it from a perspective of Robert Jordan writing this in at the time of what is known of schizophrenia or multiple personality disorder.
Schizophrenia and multiple personality disorder are two different things. So let's call it multiple personality disorder.
When was this book written? In the 88, 89?
No, this is really 90s or mid-90s.
Mid-90s? I don't know. Maybe that argument doesn't also track to what was known of that sort of mental illnesses at the time.
I think we've known a bit about it for quite some time. Since way before the 90s,
we try to shock it out of people's heads and give them lobotomies for a long time. And
Robert Jordan watched, what was that movie with Richard Gere and Edward Norton? Prime Suspect.
Oh, yeah. But he was faking. Spoilers.
Spoilers for Prime Suspect.
Anyway,
Joe, you haven't finished the chapter yet.
No, let's get back to it. Okay. So yeah, screaming, break it. And before Rand even realizes it, he's actually got the seal above his head in his hands, ready to smash it on the floor. And Bashir is there, right up in his face, standing on his tippy toes because he's so short, trying to stop Rand by holding up his arms. And I thought, oh, how the tables have turned. Just 5 minutes ago, Rand was holding your arms to stop you from doing something. Now you've come around. So Rand comes to his senses with much effort, has to fight down Lews screaming in his brain. Everyone is staring at him now, some in shock. The maidens with worry. They're all like, oh, fuck, this dude's crazy, man. And they're like, well, you don't even know the half of it. You would have heard that shit going on in his head. You would have been out of here. So yeah, like I said, Rand asks him if he has any others, and he's like, but he doesn't, obviously. And Taim tells him that the story about where he got it from. He found it from a farmer in Seldaya, and I was like, yeah, likely story. I don't believe that story anyway. Rand asks Bashir to keep the seal safe, and Bashir, at this point, realizes, oh shit, he realizes what it is, and he's like, oh my god, he's holding it all reverently and everything, and promises to keep it safe, and for 10 days or for whatever, or for 10 years, it'll be safe, and gives it he bows towards it or something, and he's really, really taken aback by what he's got in his hands. And I'm wondering now, is this the one he keeps until the last battle? Is this the one that Logain breaks? Because Bashir is there
in a table somewhere, Joe. We stated that in the episode we did with Rowan and Kerry, I think.
Yeah, that was a long one.
This is the one that he keeps all the way to the end and breaks.
Could be, yeah.
The last one. Anyway.
But I don't believe that the story that he tells about... Okay, I know it's not the true story because Mazrim Taim's a dark ring, so somewhere along the line he got that seal from somewhere else, and he cannot divulge the true story. But if you look at all the stories where these seals come from, like High Lord Turak had some, Bail Doman had one in his ship. These things have just been floating around
at an antique store or something.
For thousands of years.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that if we go and Google it now, we'll find out that one of the Forsaken gave it to him.
I suppose that the idea that a farmer knew that this is something that was been passed down for 3,000 years generationally, that's far-fetched. Like, no. Like the first child would have gone, fuck this noise, sell it for $50, gonna drink pints at the bar.
But I mean, if someone sold it for $50,
then Bale Bowman would have bought it.
in the Borderlands, yeah, he gets around though. But I think that's
trade runs through rivers, so there's rivers everywhere.
Indeed, and Saldea is on the coast of the Arith Ocean as well. It does have a coastline. Anyway, who knows? I suppose thousands or maybe millions of people know already, but we don't.
I don't think everything I've read, Joe, is that everyone quotes the story that Taim. No one knows the true origin of the seal. When it enters the story, it's from Taim, and the only history we have for it is the one that Taim gives. What we are doing is we're putting Taim's treachery on top of that story and going, this is probably unlikely, but we'll never know.
Exactly what Gowan should have done with old Will when he said, old Will can smell Aiel 1,000 leagues away. Exactly.
Yeah,
that's just proving my point again.
That should have been like a pretty red flag coming up there. But anyway, after Bashir takes the seal, Rand asks him, like, you're clearly not afraid of me, like, and after what just happened there, people are looking at me weirdly, but you're not. And Bashir's like, look, you're not the first crazy person I've served under. And he tells the story of this general who once ordered an entire grove of oak trees cut down because they were looking at him, and then had his men bury all the oak trees and said orations for them and everything, gave them like an honorable funeral. And there's a line here where Bashir's like, do you know how long it takes to bury like 30 oak trees?
Cut them down and bury them.
Bury them. Yeah, and so Rand's like, dude, this guy sounds crazy. Like, why didn't somebody do something about him or say something? He was like, no, listen, he was like a friend of the king, and everybody just left him because also he was a great general in battle. Like, and everyone just went along with it. Like, he never lost a battle, and he never even came close to losing a battle. So everyone just put up with his shit because he was just so good. Like, all right, fine. So, with all the batshit crazy used up for the moment in this room, Rand announces that he's going to take Taim to the farm and invites Bashir, like, are you coming along? And I'm like, what? Like, did he do that as a joke? Like, he obviously knows that Bashir does not want to come along. Is he just like fucking around because they know each other so well now? But Bashir's like, no, thanks, I'll stay behind. But reminds him that they do have a meeting that afternoon to inspect the troops. A very important meeting that only he and Rand and Matt know the true importance of. And it's like, ooh, cryptic clues, more breadcrumbs to fill in gaps. Taim the whole time's like, Taim's like, what farm? Where are you taking me? What's going on? And he's quite firm about it as well. And Rand realizes at that point, I don't like this cunt. This dude is unlikable. He thinks maybe it's me, Rand. And he goes, nah, it's definitely him. He's the bad guy. Luz is not a fan either. Luz the whole time in his mind is just going, kill him, kill them all. So we know how Luz stands on the matter, but Rand just tells him, I'm taking you where you can serve me. And that's how we leave this chapter.
Luz shrieked in his head.
Luz is making his thoughts well known, everybody. Kill them all, scorch the earth, kill them. And he's right. He should have. Well, I suppose he needed him to teach those Asha'man first.
You got to build an army faster than the White Tower can build Aes Sedai's.
Yeah, also, Billy, about that point that you made. Yeah, look, the Aes Sedai have all the time in the world. When they channel the power, their lives are extended, and there's a lot to learn, and they don't just focus as weapons, whereas the Asha'man are going to be crazy in 2 years, and the only task is to be a weapon. So
imagine you live longer, and you've got all the time in the world to prepare for the final battle. You're going to prepare for the final battle. What are these?
No, you're not. You're going to procrastinate. You've got all the time in the world. Why would you put haste on it at all?
Yeah, look at us.
Politic.
We only get like 70 years on average on this earth, and we procrastinate like fuck. Well, I do. I won't speak for the two of you.
Generally speaking, people do.
And I said, die. Look, I've got 400 years. I'll do it tomorrow. It's like the Spanish attitude. Mañana, mañana.
Mañana.
Exactly.
Got anything else to add, Devil?
No, just really strong lose. Like it's becoming insane. It's really crazy where Rand has these moments of wanting to break the seal in dead silence. And it's I think the people around him is looking at him and probably standing there thinking, okay, this is his movements, his body, his demeanor.
He's also muttering under his breath.
Word is it's silent and muttering, and he's staring up into the sky like a dog that's on, or like a cat that's on catnip, and he's not doing stuff like, okay, cool, someone's got to just go pat him on the shoulders, like, okay, settle down there, buddy.
Easy, boy.
Come back to your comfy chair. Just come to sit down. We'll get a little bit of linoleum in you or something.
Get your milk of the poppy.
You mean linoleum is a floor covering?
I know what it means.
Valium.
That's it. Get some linoleum in you. Someone trying to poison him to death.
Don't. What else? I mean, I've got a couple of notes here. Of course, to no one's surprise.
No. What you got?
A couple of extra things about. I've got a note here. Taim being Demandred. Speculation. Go. So there's a couple points here. Stuff that is not necessarily just from this passage or from this book, but evidence that he might be Demandred is that he refers to the Aiel as these so-called Aiel. It's pretty telling, right?
Yeah.
These aren't Aiel. He also later makes a reference to severing instead of gentling. We know that is an Age of Legends terminology.
Yeah.
And the other one that's cited is the compulsion, Joe, is like the delegation, the peace delegation that was sent. All they'll really want to do now is serve and obey.
Yeah.
So people also assume that is compulsion. But if it's not a Forsaken, it's at least assumed that he's a long-time Dark Friend, because for him to not go crazy for 10 or 15 years, A, puts him out of contention for being Demandred, because Demandred would not have been freed 10 or 15 years ago. But it means that he might have the protection of the Dark One. He might be just a high-ranking Dark Friend.
No. The 10 or 15 years thing is confusing. Rand just thinks that he's 10 or 15 years older than him. That doesn't. He just looks like a 35-year-old man. So Rand assumes that he's been channeling some from when he was 20. It's all just Rand's assumption based on what he looks like.
About like, how have you not gone mad for so long?
So he
it
goes,
does say that.
I don't know. Yeah. Well, that's what he said. That's what Rand says to him. Rand's just still assuming that he's been channeling for 15 years, but he could not have been.
Okay.
And
what about
the reason, like, why have you not mad? Because I've got the Dark One's protection is not an option to say. So he's like, oh, I don't know.
Well, that's the only reason why all of the Forsaken males don't. They've got their protection or their filter that has been installed by the Dark One. But okay, say that both of those things are wrong, and that Mazrim Taim is a person that is able to channel and already went mad. And it was an easy vessel for a Forsaken to jump in and out of to do stuff. Is that a possibility in this realm?
I don't think the Forsaken can just body snatch.
Yeah, no,
in and
I'm
out.
asking. I'm looking like, because we this is an unexplained part of the whole story.
It's an anomaly. Yes.
It's an anomaly. So, is there something that could be looked at other than what we have in front of us as options available through the explained law? That there's maybe something, okay, this guy was so nuts that his mind was so easily taken over. I mean, It's something else to look at. Like if all options fail, what else is there that's there? Start spitballing.
Well, look, this entire conversation, and to our listeners and to everybody, we know it's moot. We know that he's not Demandred. Like, okay, but it's just fun to speculate at this point in the story whether, like, Robert Jordan was writing him as Demandred and then changed his mind, or was he just fooling us from the beginning, just making us believe that he is Demandred? Because that is a discussion to be had as well.
Yeah.
For shits and giggles.
I think he could be giving us red herons, and that he was not meant to be Demandred, because the anomalies. Now I'm second guessing myself. It is such a tough one,
It's a
because
tough
those
one.
mentions of so-called Aiel and severing and stuff, that there is no other way to
And
read
that is
than his
because there's periods of Mazrim Taim that nothing that he says ties up. That is like a person. And then there's, like you say, these things like the mention of severing and the all these little tidbits where you go like, wow, there's something else in his head right now. So Rand has got loose in his head. We even though we don't want to all as a tripod agree on it yet, but Rand has got loose in his head. Who does Time have in his head?
Bag of cats.
Hey, maybe he's got some long lost Forsaken, or some old general, or
he
maybe
doesn't.
the Dark One himself in his head.
Well, there's theories that he's Moradin, but that means that he is Ishamael, which means that he was also being Mazrim Taim at the same time as the events of the Eye of the World and the Great Hunt, where Ishamael was appearing to Rand and fighting him in the sky and all that sort of stuff. Was he also Mazrim Taim at that time? So I don't know about that one.
Yeah, how could he have been?
It's quite possible that he doesn't have someone in his head. Jody, you're frowning at me.
The sun's shining in my eyes. Continue.
Oh.
I'm just listening intently.
Okay. He doesn't need to have a Forsaken or someone in his head. He could just be talking to someone. If Ishamael is giving him instructions to cause chaos, declare yourself the Dragon Reborn, blah, blah, blah. In the Age of Legends, we would be severed for this kind of offense. And the so-called Aiel are blah, blah. You know, like, there's information that could be relayed to him that he would be able to regurgitate, maybe even without thinking, that does not need him to be crazy or to be a Forsaken or to be from the Age of Legends. I think RJ left himself just enough wiggle room to get away with it.
And he did.
The Great Escape.
Well, anyway, we can read on and build on various theories and speculations and see where it takes us.
Bottom line, Taim is an absolute jerk. He states openly that he wants some of Rand's glory.
Yeah.
You know, like, he's not even coy about it. I love how Rand puts him down, because when he says, you still proclaimed yourself the dragon when you knew the prophecies, and Taim's like, yes, well, you know, I'm a man that can channel, blah, blah, blah. And Rand's like, and you were born on the slopes of Dragon Mount? And then he has some like, oh, well, you know, history is written by men and blah, blah, blah. If I became the Dragon Reborn, it would be written. And Rand is just like, no, I'm not buying it. You're full of shit. You're just power hungry. I love how Rand makes no bones about it. He goes, forget about everything other than Tom and Gaidon. You go where I point, and that's where I'm pointing. You are now preparing for time. Forget everything else. And then later when Rand says, like, okay, let's time to go to the farm, Taim goes, what farm? But Rand doesn't even really answer his question, which is the first in like a series of these sort of like reactions that Taim is like, wait, what? What are we doing? And Rand just like barrels ahead, like doesn't give a shit. Either you're following me or you're not. I actually don't have time to try and convince you of anything. So like look out for those in the next 2 chapters as well. And then lastly, I think it's Taim that mentions stories of strange occurrences that include monsters leaping out of thin air, strange beasts, and men talking to animals and animals talking back. And I thought monsters leaping out of thin air could be fades
Mm-hmm.
who jump out of shadows. Strange beasts from the Sean Chan.
Yeah.
Right? They've got strange animals, and men talking to animals and animals talking back is much like what Perrin and Elias and other wolf brother, forget his name now, Boundless, what they can do as well. So like all these fantastical stories that he's quoting here have in-world examples.
Does it also not just bubbles of evil?
I mean, also that, right? Like that's also happening, and not just. I mean, they're supposedly happening around the Taverin because they are the bubbles are finding them.
To them. Yeah, so that's a bit of a gap because Mazrim Taim isn't a Taverin. He's far from it.
Yeah, but he's just hearing these stories.
Have to be bubbles of evil.
He's just hearing these stories, not experiencing them.
Yeah. My final note on that chapter was Rand doesn't like time right from the beginning. Good instinct.
Yeah, no one does.
Instincts, Rand. No, he's an arrogant douchebag. Okay, so enough of that douchebag in this setting. Now we drag him along to another setting in chapter 3 called A Woman's Eyes. Take it away, Willem.
It is supposedly about a woman's eyes. I really don't know where that comes in because the only woman's eyes that Rand would want to see is he's running away from at the moment. Anyway.
I think it's Jer Grady's wife's eyes at the end of the chapter.
Yes, but there's a saying about a woman's dagger's eyes. Something and a saying from
something.
Yes. Something. We'll get to that. Rand decides, oh, cool, we're going to go to the farm. Hey, Mazrim, have you seen this cool trick? It's a gateway. And then he channels a gateway and he's like, well, if you didn't pick up how I did that, I'll teach you later. So Rand's showing him a few tricks in there. And as the maidens have now become accustomed to Rand making gateways, so they veil up and jump through, bows, spears, bucklers, everything ready. They're like this arriving party. I think it's a neat little trick. Like Aiel are well camouflaged and they can attack from any, but this is new. Like you could just jump through a hole and you're there, veiled and ready to go. So I think they're really enjoying this little transportation device. As everyone goes through the gateway, Rand, he is calling from the back, and it's Avienda calling out to him. So he does exactly what a normal person would do and closes the gateway.
He just abandons the source. He doesn't release it.
Just like, nah, just
that noise.
Gotta go.
Gotta go. It's he ghosts her completely.
Yeah.
Okay. Why is this happening? Because I don't know. I have no idea or understanding why this is happening.
It's just avoiding her.
Why? It went from, okay, I know it's been awkward between them, but now it's gone to him avoiding her.
Okay, let's think about it. First of all, it is super awkward for him because they slept together and now she doesn't want anything to do with him in that way, which, I mean, at the risk of getting too personal, I can relate to. Not a great feeling.
I was going to say something, but I'm glad you brought it up.
Not something that you would want to like expose yourself to more than you need to. Secondly, Rand is more and more starting to push people that he loves away from him, right? So he had that conversation with Lan in the last book, where Lan said, "Okay, if I can give you some advice about Elaine or any other woman that you love, tell her to run far away." So he's distancing himself from people that he loves quite actively. So if he's got feelings for her, I mean, she was just attacked by Lanfear not long ago and then killed by Ravine, right, for being around him. And he loves her. So more reasons for him to push them away. I don't know. This is me.
That makes a lot of sense. Like it was just so abrupt for me. Like the start of this book. By book 6 now, you should be quite used to this abrupt changes whenever a new book is written. Like some things just happen, and you're like, but why? I don't understand. All right, so Rand arrives at the farm. The maidens are not stoked about his form of travel, though, and his choosing of locations. But anyway, he gets there, and Mazrim Taim looks at what is just literally a farm of peasants washing the clothing and doing peasant things. And he's like, "Ew, is this what you've gathered?" Now, in the period that they are moving there, Rand tells him about, if you're going to be doing this with me, you also going to have to be prepared to face the Forsaken, which sort of startles Mazrim Taim, which is, again, is strange. Like the reaction to the word Forsaken there was quite interesting, but also lists all of the shadow spawn that is always part of the things that will attack you in this world that
Get
I
used
live
to
in,
it.
and the difficulty of killing darkhounds or mastiffs. Same, but different. And then asking him, do you know how to use balefire? Because if you do, don't teach anyone, and if you don't, I'm not going to teach you. And it's kind of interesting. It's like Rand flexing a bit, like all of these things. I suppose maybe because he doesn't know how to do the thing that he wants Time to do for him, but he is flexing a bit. They get to the farm. There's all new characters we get introduced to, which is going to be the start of sort of the first group of Asha'man. We'll get into those names as we progress. And he says, look, you've got half a day left. Get started with it. Like now you need to start testing these men to see if they can be trained. And lets the cat out of the bag because he doesn't know how to do it. So that gives Mazrim a little chip on his shoulder. He then starts, channel, get the flame in there. This is kind of a relief at the same time for Rand. Like, okay, cool, this is the man. He can channel. Like just referring some of that fears that Bashir had. That okay, can you, because a different appearance, a different person. I suppose in a way that can also build. Like, is this really Mazrim Taim? Was Mazrim Taim killed by a Forsaken and replaced as like just I am Mazrim Taim, look at me go type of thing. But anyway, it starts to do that, and Rand really quickly picks up, feels the residue, all of that. But it takes time a whole 7 minutes longer to say,
I
okay,
think it was
yes.
2 minutes longer.
No, it was longer. Like
To be
7
pedantic.
minutes longer. To be pedantic. Yeah, I want to get
I
the
think
name.
Rand noticed it after 7 minutes, and then Taim only after like 9 or 10 minutes. Like it was 2 minutes later, he had to wait for Taim to actually sense the resonance. But this is another thing you say there. Like Taim goes, like, oh, you don't know how to test for men, you know how to travel, and he says travel with a T, capital T. Like he knows what it is, and he knows what it's called from the Age of Legends. Another little breadcrumb.
There's this. It's too confusing. There's too many little things.
Stop being so
at the
confusing,
moment.
Robert.
Yeah. So anyway, Dharma Finn is the first person
Finn.
tested. Gets
What a legend.
the tick, and Rand's like, okay, cool. This is taking too long. I'm going to carry on with my business. And Rand channels a gateway and leaves with the maidens. End.
End of chapter. Yo, you've skipped a bunch of stuff there. Moritz probably has like 1,000 notes.
I have a bunch. Yeah.
I'm sure you do.
But you go first, Joe. Is there anything you wanted to talk about?
I think it's important to mention the wives and the families there as well, and that none of the wives are stoked about this at all. But they are there.
Of course.
Yeah. Rand also believes that men with families have something to lose, so they're more willing to fight in the last battle. Like it's real to them. It's unlike the Aes Sedai, who are so secluded and singular and detached from the world. That they don't have that connection to the world like these men will do. or will have.
Mhm.
And yeah, the title of the chapter itself, A Woman's Eyes, is like all these wives staring at Rand and Rand manipulating these guys. Like, if you want to go home, you can go home, and maybe you can find a nice place where everything will be cool while the rest of us fight our asses off and die. But if you want to go now, you can go. And he's like manipulating these dudes, and he's realizing I'm just as manipulative as the Aes Sedai. And well, yeah, you got to do what you got to do, man.
I think it's Grady's wife. Like, as he steps through the gateway at the end of the chapter, he looks back and Grady is about to be tested. And she's not looking at her husband. She's looking at Rand. And it's her eyes that he sort of remarks on. He also thinks of the wives. It must be like watching the men wait to commit suicide.
Yes.
Heavy.
Because it is.
Which it is, exactly.
Yeah, Rand also gives, talking about, like, eventually it's not, because he does cleanse the source, but he mentions it here. He's, like, telling Taim all these things that he wants to do, and one of them is cleanse the source. So he's already carrying on about it here. He wants to leave something behind. He doesn't want to only destroy, so he's already started setting up the university. He's already got plans to cleanse the source. He doesn't know how he's going to do it yet, but he's going to do it. Taim's like, wait, stop, whoa, hold, roll back, cleanse the source?
Taim asks him in this section about Sa'angreals.
Yes.
Where did he learn that? Like, how?
These things are not secrets. I mean, he's been doing research, obviously. I don't think these are things that are impossible to find out about.
No. Especially if you're a Forsaken disguise. Or you're being you're trained by one.
He's a smart guy.
Yeah, there's also... yes. Because during this, they both start channeling. Like, Rand says, okay, I want you to just, like, suck in as much of the power. I want to see how strong you are.
Hold as much as you can.
And then Rand does the same thing. And he mentions that through the little fat man Ungrill that he's got in his pocket that he draws through as something very rare. And we spoke about this earlier in previous episodes. It's like, why aren't these Forsaken just running around collecting Ungrill? Because it says it's very, very rare to find an Ungrill that is made for a man, which is why these Forsaken males don't have any.
Which accounts for half the Forsaken.
Yes. Yeah, they just go to Ruidian. All of them are there.
The female Forsaken have a bunch of them lying around all over the place.
All over the place, yeah. Maybe they already have them. I mean, Lanfear had one. The bracelet that she was wearing, or the ring, whatever it was.
Now.
No, yeah. But I mean, she had one. She knew what it was. So yeah, the female Forsaken.
Lanfear had it because Moraine put it there.
Yeah, but I mean, there it is. They're not too rare. They're there in the wagons. There's like 7 wagons.
Let's not retread this question
okay,
again.
But I'm just saying.
I think we said they're wherever there are caches of Ungrill and Terangrill and Sa'angreal, they are usually warded and guarded.
I still believe Lanfear's silver belt is a Ungrill of some sort.
Or a Ungrill.
Me too. Yes. Okay. When you think of a gateway, and it's described as, the thin, sinuous line, obviously, and then it widens, but it actually looks like it's turning. Not until this chapter did I ever picture the scene behind the gateway also turning. If you had to take a 2-dimensional square and rotate it in only 2 dimensions, as if it's a 3-dimensional square, right? Like a window or a gateway. I mean, but you're drawing it on a piece of paper. Say you're drawing it frame by frame. You're basically just drawing a rectangle that's getting wider. But that's how you would draw a rectangle turning on its middle axis in 2 dimensions. Do you know what I'm saying?
No.
The turning axis of a view in the middle, like a center pivot.
Yes.
Like a door that is not on a hinge on the ends, but in the center, will be wide or narrow in between. And what I'm seeing is like the scene behind it turns like a camera angle as the
and that's what I'm getting at.
the
I
gateway
never
turns.
pictured the scene behind the door also turning. I just imagined the doorway widening.
I've never imagined it like any of those things. I've always, when it says it's turning, I believe, I am the vertical line, and then as it opens, it turns horizontally, like that.
Oh, no.
That's how I've always pictured it.
Well, there is... Hang on.
Have you got the description right there?
The quote from the book here is, "In truth, it seemed to turn, the view through it, a sunlit clearing among draggled trees, rotating to a halt." So you imagine it turning it from horizontal to vertical?
It's a vertical line.
So when you open the gateway, things are horizontal on the other side?
No. The line, the gap opens like this. It's first a line, and as it widens, it does this.
Ah.
It's rotating
Interesting.
left to right, not three-dimensionally on a two-dimensional
you mean like
plane.
Clockwise or anti-clockwise, and not spinning on its
axis thing. No,
I've always imagined it turning on a vertical axis, but not the scene behind it. That just the lines are moving sideways apart from each other as the rectangle widens.
I need to go read that again.
Yeah, but the scene behind it also turns wacky. I love Taim's reaction to it. He's just staring at him. And Rand just, ain't no thing, like you said, flexing.
Yeah.
My thought was that Taim's probably looking at that thinking, fuck, I could have used this when I was being a false dragon. Rand mentions here about the Darkhounds that some you can kill like in the legends, but others won't stop for anything but balefire. That's why he's talking to Taim about balefire. Now, Vil, this might be something that you don't know, but in the last battle, Taim goes ballistic with balefire, basically tearing the pattern to shreds. Like he goes so nuts with it that the reality starts becoming undone. It's all because of Taim. So here, Rand is already saying to him, don't use it. And it's ironic because, or at least foreshadowing, because in the final battle, he does use it to devastating effect. He almost rips apart all of reality. With Sakanin, Demon Dread gives it to him and he starts channeling balefire everywhere after Rand told him not to use it. Did you guys want a quick history lesson on each of the Asha'man that we meet here?
Yes, please.
Real quick.
Villy's face. Screenshot that. Put it up on Twitter.
All of them fight at Dumai's Wells. They all come to Dumai's Wells. So Eben Hopwell he often accompanied Rand on missions and in battle. He's later bonded to Daigon, who's an associate of Cadswain, and later he's killed defending Daigon. Fedwin Moore is one of the guys we read about here. He fought the Seanchan near Ilion and healed Rand of a crossbow injury. He's sent to spy on the Seanchan in Altara, and reports all of their plans to Rand. He senses a weirdness in the One Power, but assures Rand that he's not going mad. And then when rogue Asha'man blow up Rand's quarters, Rand has Fedwin Moore defend Min, quote-unquote, with his life. And when Rand returns, Fedwin Moore has succumbed to the madness, his mind that of a child, and Min distracting him with toys. And Rand poisons him to give him a gentle and peaceful death.
Oh, I remember that.
Hectic, yeah. Dharma Flynn, hero. All right, we love that guy, right?
Yeah.
The reason Flynn came was because he wanted to be able to heal. He wanted to use the One Power for healing. Sound familiar?
Yes.
At the recommendation of Corlin Deshiva, Flynn begins to explore his talent for healing. So Agenor convinces Flynn to explore healing. I don't know why he would do that. There's a lot of weirdness about Deshiva that we'll get to later, but I'm sure it'll make itself known pretty soon. Just always remember Deshiva as Agenor and see if his behavior makes sense, because I feel like a lot of times it doesn't. And I feel it might be a point where he saves Rand's life, but let's see. Flynn heals Rand's wound from Paden Fane and saves Rand's life. He is bonded as a warder by Corel Hovian. His instinctual skill for healing leads him to discover a cure for severing, quite independently from Nynaeve. He does it himself as well. Nynaeve heals him of any trace of madness. So like, even though he's had madness sort of start coming in there, Nynaeve heals him of it. So he's around and he's there at the last battle. Then Joe Grady, he actually joins Perrin and is often around Perrin as his bodyguard. He is good at creating gateways and good at healing. And he's later joined by Nield, who we haven't met yet, but they've worked together as a pair, and Grady and Nield, I remember reading those two names together all the time.
It's like Turk and JD.
And they... Yeah, Neil also fights at Dumai's Wells. But that's it, Willie. The history lesson is over.
Billy had you on mute this whole time.
I listened intently, nodding heads. I just didn't feel like doing the history lesson. I was sick.
Billy doesn't like history.
And then the last couple of one-shots. Rand thinks how long until Tarman died on? A year? 2? So, like, they are feeling the pressure. They know it is right up on top of them. And then Taim says to Rand, what do you mean to, like, you mean to put this all on me? Don't you want to learn the test? This is all on my shoulders. And Rand goes, I already picked up the test. It wasn't difficult. And I do mean to put it all on your shoulders until you can find more and teach them enough so they can help you look.
Yep.
It's like, yes, shut up. Quit whining. I do expect that. Now do it.
I got other shit to do. Goodbye.
Yeah,
there's in this list, when Rand is giving him a list of like all the shadow spawn that could attack him at any point, blah, 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 he adds at the last golem and then thinks to himself, what the fuck is a golem? Yeah. We haven't seen them yet.
Know what it is. Rand thinks to himself, what is that?
Thanks, Luz.
And then my last one is he instructs Taim to keep a lookout for any students that look like they might be progressing too quickly because one of the Forsaken might try and hide amongst the recruits. Yes, Tashiva.
Yes.
He does. Anything else, Vil, before we go to the last chapter?
Nah, that was it.
Excellent. Then chapter 4 is called A Sense of Humor. Tell us about your sense of humor, Joe.
It is not in line with the Aiel sense of humor, I'll tell you that much. So, Rand and the maidens just traveled 800 miles to Tyr. That's where they were going, through that gateway that opens in a specific way that everyone interprets differently. And if you thought it was hot in the north, oh lordy, wait until you get down south in the bayou where it's 4,000 degrees. And they are in the war camp made up of Terrans and Kyrenian and Aiel, as they prepare to invade Ilion and take out Samael. So Rand's got the special tent set up for just traveling to, which is guarded 24/7 by Aiel, and there is some banter between them, between the maidens and the Thunderwalkers who are guarding that tent today. These Thunderwalkers are wearing the red headband of the Asha'man, or Spears of the Dragon, to us common folk. The jokes are weird, and neither Rand or I understand Aiel humor, which I suppose is the point. Regardless, the maidens win this round for reasons. Rand is met by Royden, who points him in the direction of the High Lords. He also mentions that the High Lords have been excluding the clan chiefs lately from all of the war councils. Rand tells him, listen, I'll have a word with them, and sends Royhan to bring the clan chiefs to the war tent. On the way to the High Lords, there's cheers from all the people, like, yay, hail, the Lord Dragon, whatnot. He also sees some lords just turn around, like eyeball him and turn around and leave without saying anything. There's a bit of everything in between. While he's walking with the maidens, he tries out some Wetlander human on the maidens by telling them a joke. A real dad joke. I'm very proud of him. After delivering, I'm not going to tell. It's terrible. I'm not going to tell the joke. You can go read it. After delivering the punchline, he waits expectantly, but all we hear is crickets. The maiden's reaction is actually the real funny part of the joke. And Rand just gives up. He's like, fuck it, I don't get it. Because the thing about water at the end, and like the guy that falls in a puddle, and the maidens are like, so the joke's about the water, right? And he's like, no, fuck. It's about the puddle. The joke must be about the water. And he's like, no, well, fuck it, just forget it. The High Lord's tent is guarded by defenders of the stone. And as Rand passes through, he gives them a little, the stone still stands comment as he passes in, like through the doorway. And they think, and I think that's pretty cool because they give a little smile as well. Like he was there, he fought with these guys, and they remember him. Inside the tent, we have Wyramon, Sunamon, Tolmaran, Torian, Estevan. He sounds very Spanish for some reason, and a smattering of lesser lords from from Tyr. And then we have the Kyrenian. They represented by Semaradrid, Mineral, and then some other nameless douches. There's mostly, from what I could tell, they were supposed to be equal according to the book, like an equal amount of Terrans and an equal amount of Kyrenian. But by name, there's far more. What's the other? Terrans mentioned than douchebags. So Rand notices that two other Terran lords, Siman and Hearn, are not there. And he's like, well, we'll have to wait for them before we get started to talk about this. And turns out they are not going to be coming. They have decided to turn on Rand, and they have fled to Haddon Merk along with some other lords, Darlin, Tadosian, who is Lady Altima's husband that she tried to off with poison, if you recall.
Lover?
Mm-hmm. Love her.
Yeah. And Lady Estanda, who is Altima's arch enemy, forced to look after Tadosian when Rand sent Altima to Carian. So it seems like they formed a little bond with their little time together, perhaps, yes.
And Darlin is the High Lord that Matt fights when he goes into the stone, and he has that sword fight against, like he's using his staff, and there's a Lord that's actually putting up quite a fight with a sword. That's Darlin.
Okay. So all of these people that have abandoned are Terrans, to the smirking delight of the Kyrenians in the room. Like, you see, you can't trust these guys. Rand, speaking of Darlin, Rand at least respects Darlin for being openly against him from the start. Darlin never made any bones about being, a fan of Rand, and his betrayal is no surprise. But the others bowed and scraped and called him Lord Dragon and whatnot, but were secretly plotting behind his back all along. Get used to it, Rand. That's what they do. Rand doesn't have time to go after them. He's got bigger fish to fry. I've written here, at least 10-pound trouts to fry.
10-pound trouts.
10-pound trouts.
That's
100-pound
trout.
I thought it was not big enough. Look, I'm talking about the other trout. The other trout that he's trying to fry is Samael. He's at least a 10-pounder.
Yeah, that's not a trout. That's more like a barracuda.
Barracuda. So, just tangents galore. So he decrees that their titles are, this is Rand, he decrees that their titles are forfeited, their lands confiscated, issues arrest warrants for them. Anyone who kills one of them will be pardoned from murder. Anyone who aids them will be charged with treason. Any who surrender will be spared. He only put that in because one of them is a woman. Fuck sakes, Rand. And any who persist will be hanged. End of story. The lords are shocked, specifically by the forfeiting of titles bit. They have already got used to the hanging of lords, that Rand has changed all these laws, but those guys at least died as lords. Now they will die like dogs. Has anybody else watched The Three Amigos?
Yes.
Not in a very
long time ago.
I watch it on a yearly basis. Tell us we will die like dogs. So anyone who loves that movie, here's your line. Just then, the clan chiefs arrive. It is Bruan of the Nakai, Jeren of the Sharad, not the Sharan with the slaves, Moritz, Dierik of the Rain, Han of the Tomanel, and Eram of the Shireen. The Kyrenian ignore them blatantly. The Terrans sneer and sniff into their perfumed hankies. But Rand is like, fuck it, just get on with the dudes. He opens up a map that he's been looking for to talk war plans. It's more of a test, really, as Rand has been using Tel'aran'rhiod to spy on all of Samael's defenses anyway. So he already knows the answers to the questions he's going to be asking these High Lords. Rand, you better be careful, bro. You see, Rand just thinks, he found this cool way to go and spy and stuff, but he's entering Tel'aran'rhiod regularly in the flesh to go and spy on things. So maybe that has
to go spy on the operations of a Forsaken.
Yes. Yeah. So maybe that also has had an effect on why his madness is accelerated, so that maybe it's not true, like we've discussed before, that maybe this is, you don't lose yourself, but it could be a degree as well, because it has accelerated his madness.
Oh, he's channeling.
It's his channeling, but from the end of the last book to the beginning of this book, it's a huge difference. The madness, like it's a massive jump. I don't know. I'm
channeled a lot.
Just speculation.
In the fight with Ravine, he channeled a shit ton.
Inside Tel'aran'rhiod in the flesh. Maybe it's just amplified the madness. Anyway, you see, all of this is a ploy. This massive force, the battle plan, everything. He knows Samael has spies in the camp. Human spies, raven spies, rat-kind spies. He's even been paying people to kill the rats and the ravens to keep them out there. So he has been preparing a secret plan with Matt and Bashir. both wild cards that most people are not familiar with, like maybe the Forsaken, because Bashir's only showed up a couple of weeks ago. Nobody really knows about Matt's knowledge about battles and whatnot, so he's playing his cards very close to his chest. Matt would be proud of him. So even the clan chiefs have been left out of the actual plan. So, of course, Wyramon just wants to charge at Ilion with the cavalry. Of course he does. But it would take them literally 30 days to get to Ilion on horseback. And Samael's outposts and hill forts are like 250 miles from the city. So any attack will be seen coming for miles, at least 250 miles. So there's no way that he would get anywhere near the city. Nobody knows the real plan, but they know that waiting is dumb. They've all got a point there. Like, why are we waiting? This, like, Samael's forces are just, growing and growing and growing the longer we wait. We need to do something quickly, but they have to wait because Rand's got other plans up his sleeve. They talk more about supply routes and the like and all battle, sundries. And then Rand leaves to half-hearted invitations to the feast. No one really wants to hang out with him. And he's cool with that, but they have to say the words. He leaves with the clan chiefs, and they are escorted by the maidens back to the Aiel camp. Rand has to meet with them again, the clan chiefs, as they have missed the first part of the meeting, and Jiito and all of that, and they would be dishonored if he didn't have the same meeting with them, and blah, 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 blah. Again, this could have all been an email. So they, too, urge Rand to move soon. But, of course, they don't know the real plan. But Rand's like, no, just promise me you'll wait for Matt to arrive. Oh, that's another thing about Matt. That's quite clear that the High Lords are like, why do you just want Matt to lead us because he's your buddy? They don't believe that this kid knows anything about war. So it looks like Rand is just showing favoritism. So yeah, like
because in front of the Lords, he only refers to him as Matt, not Lord Cawthon or General Matt or anything. It's just, you guys just wait until Matt gets here.
Yeah, Matt will sort you all out. Seriously.
My buddy Matt.
Yeah, so I wrote you as well, but I mentioned it earlier. Like, I've read a bit ahead, and Matt is in a tavern, so they could be waiting for quite a while. Outside the tent, he can hear the maidens and the Thunderwalkers going at it again. This time it seems that Liren, one of the Thunderwalkers, got the better joke in, and they all rejoice. So it's like a joke, joke off, I suppose. Whoa, that sounds too close to another word. Anyway, it's a joke. They're all outside joking off. Rand found some good 2 rivers to back in Camelin, so everyone's having a puff in the tent there. There's a lot of joking off and puffing. And they're having a chat inside. This is again one of Rand's little moments there. He's talking brandy. Is the Southlander or is this Wetlander brandy better than Usquai? And what is to be done about the Shido dogs? I was like, oh fuck, I forgot about the Shido. Have we just they are not mentioned at all in the beginning of this book except for now and the prologue, obviously, but that was weeks ago. And they try to explain a bit of Aiel humor to Rand, but to no avail. Rand still does not get it.
I'm sorry, I don't get Aiel humor. Morris,
No.
you're an Aiel fanboy. Do you get the humor?
Yeah, it's right up my alley.
Sure it is.
What don't you get?
Yeah, I think that's the whole point of the chapter, is that we're not going to understand each other. The end. Just leave it. Near to sunset, Rand leaves and now has to go meet Bashir for that inspection, if you recall, of the ranks, but thinks, nah, fuck it, I'm going to have some stew while watching the sun go down instead. The maidens fuss over him and start giving him advice on how to win over Avienda. She's like, you don't eat enough. You need a wife. You'll make a great wife? Avienda. She'll be a great wife. This is how you win her over. And he's just having to suffer through this while they carry on. So he asks them if they realize, like Billy said earlier, like, you realize you're not my mother's. And then they think this is some sort of Wetlander joke, and they don't get it. But they condescendingly patting him on the back saying, I'm sure it's a very good joke. You'll have to explain it to us another time. Yes. And he's just like, fuck it, whatever. And after they watch him eat every spoonful of stew and the bread and the mint tea and everything they brought him, he has to suffer through some more sex advice before they head back to Camelin. When he gets back to Camelin, he sneaks into his room with his boots off like a drunk husband, trying not to wake his wife, who is awake anyway, like Avienda is, and thinks he's done it until he hears her turn over and tell him, "Sleep well and wake." She quotes Moritz. On the one hand, he's happy to hear her voice, but also angry that all his effort to be sneaky was in vain. Like, he didn't even get to bath. He's sleeping in his clothes again. It's just a ridiculous situation. But before he falls asleep, he thinks Avienda must think this is the best joke ever. And just like that massive army waiting to attack Ilion is the biggest joke the world has ever seen. And soon, Samael will be dead. Sweet dreams, everybody. And that's how we end.
Shoo.
So I assume there's a plan B. So all the focus is on this massive army because who is it now? One of the clan chiefs says we have 200,000 spears here. That's just the Aiel, not the Kyrian and the Tarian combined. So they're at least 300,000, maybe 250 to 300,000. So it's this massive distraction. But him and Matt and Bashir have formulated another plan. And he's just going to go and kill him, I suppose. Does he not fight Samael in...
Hey, Joe, don't get into
in
our
Aradol
chapters for the next week.
I'm not. I read like 4 pages. I went to, like, after I finished this chapter, like, hey, where is Matt? And is, like, what's the next chapter about? And I was like reading Tavern, and I was just skimming Tavern, Pretty Girls. Oh, okay, here he is. I didn't even see his name yet, but I knew that was his chapter.
That's gotta be it. Yes, Joe, he does fight Samael in Shadow Logoth.
Yeah, so a different plan. Is this? Yeah, this
but
fight.
I think that's in book 7.
Yeah, because it's on another book. I remember it's the cover of, like, that blue, dark blue cover.
Yeah. What is it? Crown of Swords.
Dude, asking the wrong guy.
Yeah. Yeah, Willie, what have you got there?
It's a great chapter. There's a lot more happening in that one that in the slow start of this first 3. A bit of planning, a bit of
I
action.
think it's that slow. I mean, I've been enjoying all these chapters.
I have thoroughly enjoyed the prologue. In every chapter.
A lot of groundwork. I mean, if you're reading it straight after, like we're doing, like straight after the end of Fires of Heaven, obviously the pace has changed somewhat, but there's a lot of new stuff setting up for this book. And it's, I mean, meeting Mazrim Taim and the beginnings of the Asha'man, that's exciting. Rand gathering a massive army. Remember the last time he gathered a massive army was right before they attacked Kyrian, or like tried to liberate Kyrian from the Shido. Like, things are poised here for a massive explosion.
Oh, yeah.
I'm dreading, like, reading about Saladar again.
But oh God, let's not go there. let's not deal with that now.
Rand refers to it as a host already mighty enough to smash anything in its path.
Yep.
So do that. Use that host to smash everything in your path and do the thing.
Send that host that's now at the very southern tip of the continent up to the north. Go attack Sha'al Ghul right now. Go.
Yeah, just go from A to B and destroy everything in between.
Yeah, no, if this was Game of Thrones season 8, they could just, march up there next week and they would cross the entire continent in a flash. Blink of an eye.
Easily.
So
only men wear the red headband, not the maidens.
Yeah, because the maidens don't have time for that shit. They're already Rand's honor guard. They don't need to show anything or prove it with a headband.
I read about this a little bit because I was because it's commented on here in this chapter, and some people have theories about it. I don't think anything definitive is ever stated in the story, but some interesting thoughts out there. One of them being that it's weird for the Aiel to do that, because making themselves almost the spears belonging to the dragon, is like the other interpretation of the translation. Like, it is almost implying a sense of possession, which is the antithesis of the Kara Khan, which is a first among equals philosophy, right? Like, they specifically don't treat Rand like a king, where these guys seem to be doing exactly that, or at least idolizing Rand in some way. And then some people think, like, maybe it's the other extreme of the bleakness.
That's exactly where I was going to go with it. Take it a spin off to, because the first people that started doing it were Guy Shane. of
That's
the
true.
various, they started saying, like, okay, cool, we can't throw down our spears, and we cannot walk. Put yourself in the perspective of a great Aiel warrior that was taken Shane by a sneaky fucker that just touched him on his arm while he was turning his back. And there he is, and all of this news breaks to you, and you are the most staunch of Aiel and a great warrior, and you have got your toe to doing your time as Shane. So what do you can't what do you do? It's okay, cool. My new commitment is this: I'm the spear of the dragon now. This is my thing. So maybe that's where it just gathered. Well, my interpretation was that it started there and started spreading from there. Like Shane's supposed to be only wearing white, but a lot of them have just gone with this red headband. That's now.
And they let it slide.
Everyone let it slide. I think a lot of people say, cool, change is upon us. This is the part of the change that we accept.
All right. That was my 2 points. 1, the Karakan and the Dragonborn brings change. So, new rules, new everything. 2,
yeah,
the Aiel are known for being able to disappear and hide camouflaged really well. And now you've got a bright red headband on. This is a bad idea, camouflage-wise. What is the point of the Gaiden Saw if you've got a bright red headband on with like white and black? Like,
they can pull
shoot
the
me
shooter around it.
Yeah, like a little target on your forehead. Shoot me there with an arrow, please. Yeah.
They mention here that specifically Midral use rats and ravens as spies. Like we've always heard about it, like being spies for the Dark One. And I don't know, maybe they mention it in the Eye of the World, but I never thought about like, okay, who would specifically be receiving the messages from the rats and the ravens? Trollocs? No. Fades. Okay, well, that makes sense. They're like sort of in the field officers and commanders of the Trolloc hordes. It's just something I never thought about.
Yeah. And we've talked about this, that they don't see through their eyes like in the Lord of the Rings. Like the rats actually have to run and go and tell him, right? Like how does he... Is it a telepathic?
Have they?
I have a feeling we've talked about this. Like how does he get the information from the rats?
And then does he speak rat?
Just like a ratatouille, are they sitting on his head, on his head under his... making omelets.
Or they teach them Morse code or something. Weramon calls Rand Lord of the Morning.
Yes, he does.
That was a Lewis Theron title.
Yeah.
And Rand muses on how it's weird how these little slivers of information can make it all the way from the Age of Legends into the current age. We said that Rand almost admired Darlin for his, his open stance from the beginning. He escaped the Stone of Tyr the night that it fell, after he fought Matt. And I don't know if you guys remember when we covered this and we read about Darlin the first time and I recognized his name. Darlin actually eventually comes around to Rand's side. Rand makes him the king of Tyr, and Darlin leads the armies of Tyr in the final battle and survives. Here he is, like a ringleader among the rebels.
Yeah. Wow.
Rand is also just cruising around with a shoofer.
Yeah. Well, it's fucking hot, man.
Maidens keep popping around him.
Yeah, which is great. Yes, Rand, do it. You are Aiel. Embrace it. Rand refers to people seeing his duel with Samael in Cairhien. That was for my own clarity, his duel with the One Power, right?
I imagine so. Because I thought that they were maybe it was like a misprint in my book or something. His duel with Ravine, or like I was like, did they mean Andor? I was way confused. But it
caught me. A duel is a weird way of phrasing it. It's more like a contest, which is a bit broader. A duel implies it, especially in this world with sword fights and duels, and dagger duels and that sort of thing. It implies a much more intimate and close quarters sort of encounter. I was just so glad for Rand, even though it's because he's avoiding Avienda, to just get a moment of peace. Like that whole stanza is just written in such a like relaxed way. Like he goes, And he sits and he watches the sunset,
Yeah.
and the maidens bring him a big plate of stew, and he sits there and he eats it all, and he actually just has a moment's peace, because now we've read about him, like, in that same day, he was in a sword fight with 5 dudes where it looks like he caught a concussion, got given one of the Dark One's steals and went crazy and almost smashed it on the floor, was almost killed by Davram Bashir, met another male channeler that was his direct opposition until that very moment, who is almost as powerful as he is, and went and faced all the wives of the men that he's basically condemning to death by letting them learn how to channel. Then he's come and dealt with the Terran nobility and their bullshit and the news of these rebels, colluding against him, and then manipulated by, or tolerating the Kyrenian, and then dealing with the clan chiefs. And then at the end of this day, instead of going home and facing Avienda, he just has to chill the fuck out. And it was such a lovely little moment. Like, it's a big day for our boy, and I was glad that he had this little moment.
Yeah. No, it was also well written. I agree. I like that. But like I said, he gets these little moments of peace that he takes. Like, even though we was fighting those guys, he was in the void. That's all he was focused on, was that fight, nothing else. Then he has those meetings with the clan chiefs, and they tell jokes, and they almost fall over laughter in the tent, and they smoke a pipe and talk shit. And then he goes and has a moment just by himself and has some stew. Like, well, he's going to go mad and destroy the world. Take these little moments when you can.
Yeah, plenty of time for going crazy. Just chill out a bit.
There's a lot of crazy to go around.
So speaking of moments, should we move on to our favorite ones of those?
I forgot mine now. Hang on. I did have it. Willie, you go first.
No. Morris goes first this time.
All right.
Okay, I'll go first.
Passing the buck.
Because Jody, I fear, when you covered this point, I was like, oh shit, Jody's going to pick the same one.
All right.
When Rand ducks into the tent full of Terran nobles, and the defenders of the stone are standing there, and Rand says, the stone still stands. Quick smiles flashed across some of the faces and snapped back to wooden stiffness. And because some of them obviously remember that night when Rand was leading them through the halls of the stone against all the Trolloc attacks. So some of those guys were there when Rand was doing it. And that's the battle cry that they used that night. And they've heard Rand say it. And this was such a cool little, like, Rand didn't have to do that at all. These soldiers, I mean, it sounds callous, but these soldiers standing guard in this tent are of no consequence to him whatsoever. Not what he's about to do, not his larger plans, not anything. And like, I just listed off all the things that have been happening that day. So his mind is busy, right? Not to mention the fucking noise from Blue Theron going on in there. Rand is a busy dude, a lot going on there. And for him to just take that moment to bring just that short little smile and that little piece of enjoyment to those guys who are of no consequence to the grand scheme of things, was, he didn't have to do it, but he did it anyway. And when I read it, I was like, there's our Rand, between all the madness and the hardness and the coldness and pushing people away and stuff, he's still a good guy, and he still made the decision to give those guys a little smile. So that was my favorite moment.
All right. That wasn't what I was going to choose.
Not okay.
My favorite moment was not about smiles, but more so the lack of smiles, when Rand decides to try his hand at giving the Aiel maidens a joke, and them just not getting it at all. Like, it's about the pond. The crux of this has to be about the water. Like, it's about the water. What about the water, Rand? Randolph Thor, what is it about the fucking water? Like, just,
and he's fucking like, golf shoes.
No.
And the way that Robert Jordan drops it in there is also so great, because it's like, again, after all the shit we've just read, and Rand is like off to see the Terrans now, and he's like in this war camp, and it's this massive army that's on the border and everything, and he stops dead, like he can't take it anymore. He just stops dead, and the maidens are like, oh, what's going on? He's like, okay, so there's 2 farmers, right? He just launches this shitty joke out of nowhere, and it is such a cool little moment of levity. This whole chapter actually, despite like some of the heavier themes, like brings quite a bit of like, oh, okay, just relieve the pressure and the tension from all these like men that can channel. And
he stops to tell that joke so abruptly that some of them veil themselves and they spin to look for the attack. Like, no, it's a great joke. I just want to tell you a joke. Chill out. Well, my favorite little moment is when he runs away from Avienda. I love the fact that he is the dragon reborn with Taim at his side, heading off to go train Asha'man. And when he hears her calling behind him, he goes, whoop, and just lets go of the battle. I'm not dealing with that shit now. And Taim actually looks at him like, what are you doing, man? Like, who's that? Don't worry about it.
It's the Wheel of Time equivalent of like, oh, there's some static on the phone. I can't hear you.
Going through a tunnel.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I can't hold the weave pipe.
Yeah. So funny. It's supposed to be such a badass. She scares the
so
shit out of him.
She does. I got a couple honorable mentions. Rand's little moment of peace watching the sunset. That's also really great. It's like a nice little relief for the reader as well. The general missing of the Aiel jokes and the patronizing when they go, was this a Wetlander joke? I'm sure it was a good joke, but you must explain it to us.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was a good joke. Don't worry. And then Rand's general treatment of Taim, like not even answering some of his questions, walking off and making him follow, keeping him guessing, and then telling him the test was easy and he did pick it up. And yes, he is putting it all on his shoulders. Like, don't be so put out by it. Fall in line, Taim.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that a lot. Okay, so then to our listeners, our loyal and lovely listeners, send in your favorite moments, your musings, your harebrained theories, and just general words of encouragement. Tell us how you've always imagined a gateway opening, because fuck around. Like, we've got 3 different versions here, which is pretty good. You can do that, which is to say, you can reach out to us and let us know your favorite moments and theories using any of the social media links in the episode description below. And you can now join our Discord, lovingly curated by superfan Adrian. The link for the Discord is also in the bottom of the episode description. And we also have a fledgling merch store. So go check that out. You can go to our website at bloodandashespodcast.com. In the top right corner, there's a little link to the shop, which just has a couple t-shirts on there. Send us some ideas for t-shirts or merch, and we'll put them up there.
This is the first I'm hearing of this. Like, we talked about a t-shirt design once. I didn't know we had a merch store, like, up and running.
Did you not know?
No.
Go read your messages.
No one tells me anything.
Late 9 o'clock in the morning, you Spaniard.
It's in there. So next time on Blood and Ashes, we will do chapter 5 called A Different Dance through to the end of chapter 7, A Matter of Thought. That's only 3 chapters, but they are all beefy boys. They are.
Are you doing one as well?
This remains to be seen.
Or you're going to stop halfway through, or Willie does 2. Willie does 2 chapters. Willie. Choose Willie for
2. We'll see how that goes. But until then, sleep well and wake.
Cheers.
Good evening.